Empress Cathara's voice rang through the vaulted Grand Concordat Hall, her crest feathers flaring in measured authority as she unrolled the treaty scroll before the assembled court. By the eternal bonds of the everbound empire, I proclaim this emergency accord with the human collective of Earth. It secures our contested border against the Krell incursions and safeguards the future of Princess Liren, my heir, and the Empire's light. The words hung heavy, met by a ripple of scaled hides tightening and multifaceted eyes narrowing. Silence laced with the sharp tang of dissent. She felt the weight of it all. The fleet reports still burning in her mind, Krell raiders slicing through outer patrols, their plasma lances carving voids where Veilori cruisers once held firm. This treaty was no triumph, but a necessity forged in the shadow of her daughter's vulnerability. Liren stood at her side, the young princess's iridescent scales gleaming under the hall's crystal chandeliers, her posture rigid with the poise Cathara had drilled into her since hatching. The court, high marshals, lore keepers, and trade syndics watched like predators circling a fresh kill, their tails twitching in barely veiled calculation. The delegation from Earth approached then, a sparse line cutting through the throng of Veilori finery. At their fore strode the human envoy, Captain Jonah Armitage, his form unadorned by the expected pomp. Simple dark uniform, no crest or jewelry, just a steady gait that ignored the stares boring into him. Humans were curiosities at best, primitives elevated by recent warp tech scavenging, their ships blocky relics pressed into service. Cathara had reviewed the briefs, expendable diplomats, good for ceremonial buffers. As the lead Veilori herald extended the Imperial Seal Codex for the handover, Armitage halted abruptly, his pale eyes flicking to the device. "A moment," he said, voice calm through the translation field, carrying none of the deference these occasions demanded. The herald froze, spines bristling, but Armitage leaned in, scanning the codex's glowing runes with unnerving focus. "The attunement matrix is inverted. Third quadrant, your secondary authentication glyph is phasing out of sync with the primary bind. It'll reject the human sigil on ratification." Gasps slithered through the hall. Cathara's own advisor, Lore Keeper Sereth, hissed low beside her. "Impossible." Our scribes verified it thrice, but Armitage's fingers danced over a handheld slate, pulling up a holographic overlay that matched the codex perfectly. He adjusted a single rune projection with a tap, precise, unhurried, and the device hummed back to stability, lights aligning in emerald harmony. The herald stammered, retracting claws from the seal. "How this human perceives such subtlety?" Armitage merely nodded, stepping back. "Pattern from your public archives. Humans cross-reference rituals with tech diagnostics. Old habit from our treaty protocols. It's ratified clean now." Cathara's mind raced, her tail coiling tightly beneath her robes, a technicality overlooked by her own experts, caught by this off-worlder in moments. Politically expendable, yes, but practically acute. She signaled ratification with a talon tap on her throne arm, the hall's great bell tolling in response. The treaty bound now, ink and blood alike. As the delegation withdrew, she turned to her chamberlain. Status review on the full human contingent. Quarters clearances, surveillance, full spectrum. The captain especially. The human was a wild card, his correction a reminder that primitives could bite when cornered. Liren glanced up at her, eyes wide with a mix of awe and unease. "He saw what Sereth missed, Mother." "Is that?" High Marshal Varn stormed in, his battle-scarred hide rippling, retinue of armored loyalists at his flanks. "Empress, this outrage cannot stand." Humans in our halls? Their envoy meddles in sacred rites. The treaty teeters on blasphemy. Petition the Synod. Exclude them from palace precincts. Relegate to orbital quarantine. The fleet will not abide soft-fleshed interlopers compromising our purity. Cathara rose, her presence filling the space, feathers fully erect in regal command. Varn's faction had chafed since the Krell flares. This was their wedge, the border crisis their lever to unseat her reforms. Liren's safety hung on this alliance. Earth's sensor nets could blind the raiders, their stubborn hulls a bulwark her strained yards couldn't match. High Marshal, your zeal blinds you. The treaty is ratified. Exclusion now fractures it, invites Krell lances to Liren's cradle world. Varn's spines flared, voice booming. "They are primitives, Empress. One glitch fix does not earn them our sanctums. My marshals report their ships lag our phaser cycles. Expendable fodder at best. And yet their envoy spotted your impossible error, she countered, voice cracking the air like thunder. Propriety strained, fatigued from endless war councils gnawed at her edges. But she held iron. We bind them under strict terms. Monitored access, no armories, palace oversight. Captain Armitage stays. His steadiness serves until proven otherwise. Defy this, and you defy the ever-bound chain. Varn recoiled, multifaceted eyes flickering with calculation. But he bowed stiffly. As you command. The Synod will hear of it. His tail lashed as he withdrew, the petition's shadow lingering. Cathara exhaled, sinking back, the sanctum's quiet pressing in. Liren slipped from a side alcove drawn by the raised voices. You kept him, mother. Despite Varn. For the Empire, Cathara said, drawing her daughter close, feeling the young one's warmth against the chill of intrigue. And because he did not falter, beyond the windows the palace spires gleamed under twilight, but deeper in the human envoy took his first steps into the labyrinthine courts, shadows lengthening, eyes upon him from every archway. The treaty was inked, unwanted but unbreakable, and with it a new variable entered her game. Cathara's crest flared subtly as the grand doors of the integration hall parted, admitting the human envoy under the weight of 1,000 watching eyes. Captain Jonah Armitage strode forward, his posture unyielding yet devoid of the bombast she had expected from these soft-skinned upstarts, taking his assigned place at Princess Liren's side, close enough for the treaty's cameras to capture the optics of unity, yet bound by invisible chains of protocol that forbade him more than a ceremonial nod. The princess, her iridescent scales shimmering under the vaulted lights, inclined her head graciously, but Cathara saw the flicker of unease in her daughter's multifaceted eyes. This was no Valori guardian, only a human shadow cast by necessity. Chimes resonated through the hall, signaling the activation of the perimeter wards, ancient security nodes woven into the crystal pillars, pulsing with azure energy to seal the chamber against intrusion. The court held its breath, counselors in their tiered alcoves murmuring approvals as the first node hummed to life. Then, a stutter. The light flickered, dimmed to a sickly pulse, and alarms whispered faintly from the conduits. Gasps rippled outward. Such a failure during integration was omen enough to fuel whispers of ill-fated alliances. Jonah did not hesitate. Without a word, he knelt beside the nearest pillar, his fingers, nimble, calloused in ways no diplomats should be, probing the access panel. The node spat sparks, but he twisted a concealed relay with practiced ease, rerouting power from an auxiliary line Cathara's own technicians had overlooked in their rigid pre-checks. The azure glow stabilized, brighter than before, threading seamlessly into the others. He rose, dusting his hands, and resumed his place as if he had merely adjusted a cufflink. Silence gripped the hall, broken only by the princess's soft intake of breath. Cathara's mandibles clicked once, involuntarily, her primary eyes narrowing on the human. A diplomat versed in Valori ward architecture, her initial dismissal of him as a mere political bauble, tolerable for the fleet support he brought, cracked like thin ice. This was no rote knowledge. It bespoke hands-on mastery, the kind forged in crises, not council chambers. She signaled her chamberlain with a subtle crest twitch. Compile a full dossier on Captain Armitage's prior deployments. Every mission log from Earth Fleet, cross-referenced with our intercepts, discreetly. The chamberlain bowed low, retreating into the shadows as the ceremony resumed, oaths intoned in harmonious chorus. Yet Cathara's gaze lingered on Jonah, noting how he scanned the hall's sightlines without over-suspicion, his body angled protectively toward Liren even within protocol's bounds. The princess, emboldened, leaned fractionally closer during the binding rite, her voice a private murmur. Your adjustment. It held when ours faltered. How? Seen similar failsafes in joint ops? Jonah replied evenly, his tone carrying no boast, only the quiet assurance of one who fixed problems as breathing. Power bleed from the tertiary vents. A quick shunt fixed it. Liren's crest perked, a spark of genuine curiosity lighting her features, the first unguarded moment Cathara had seen in her daughter since the treaty's shadow fell. The human had not preened. He had simply acted, his competence a ripple disturbing the court's still waters. As the rites concluded and the assembly dispersed into state duties, a procession to the outer galleries for treaty signatories, Cathara descended her dais, her robes whispering like distant storms. She permitted Jonah's proximity, stationing him at Liren's flank amid the dignitaries, a test wrapped in courtesy. Protocol demanded he observe only, speak when addressed. His human frame a deliberate contrast to the towering Valori sentries. Would he chafe under the restraint? Fracture the fragile poise? He did not. As they processed through arched corridors lined with holographic star maps, detailing the precarious borders her empire now shared with human expanses, Jonah multitasked seamlessly, nodding to envoys, murmuring tactical notations to Liren on crowd flows, all while tracking a loose panel in the vaulting that hummed discordantly. When a junior aide stumbled under a dataslate's weight, he steadied it with one hand, recalibrating its sync mid-stride without breaking conversation. Liren laughed softly at his dry quip about overloaded circuits mirroring overtaxed alliances, and even the stone-faced sentries exchanged glances. Kithara observed from her vanguard position, her secondary eyes cataloging every nuance. The human endured the procession's marathon length without falter, his pace steady where lesser aides flagged, his attention splintering across threats, etiquette, and counsel. He juggles as if born to it, she thought, a grudging respect threading through her calculations. Her own Violori were paragons of singular focus, unmatched in deep strategy. But this was adaptability, weaving chaos into order. In the outer gallery, amid swirling nebulae projections and bubbling refreshment orbs, Counselor Vexar approached, his obsidian scales etched with conservative sigils.